Meetings held remotely will require roll call votes for all action items. Note, meetings of the Board of Directors of the Cook County Health and Hospital Systems and its committees are expected to be held remotely until a date to be determined due to the current circumstances concerning COVID-19. Madam Secretary, will you do the roll call?
Director Curry?
Present.
Director Garza?
Present.
Chair Prendergast?
Present.
And for the record, those directors also present. Director Harrington?
Present.
And Director Ketting?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, I should have called the meeting to order, but you've done the roll call, so we can move forward. The Human Resources Committee's regular meeting schedule for 2023 has not yet been determined. However, it is expected that the committee will begin holding their quarterly meetings starting in February of 2023. Madam Secretary, is there anyone registered to provide virtual oral testimony or submitted written testimony to be included in the record?
Yes, we have one registered speaker, Andrea Kluger from the Chicago Federation of Labor, and I do have her written statement to include in the record, but she is here to provide her virtual oral testimony. Andrea, would you like to begin? And just a reminder, you have 3 minutes. I'll give you a heads up with about 30 seconds left.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning. I'm speaking today on behalf of CFL Secretary Treasurer Don Villar, and we'll be reading a letter that he submitted for written comment. Dear members of the Cook County Health and Human Resources Committee, on behalf of the Chicago Federation of Labor and Industrial Union Council, I write today in support of Cook County Health Nurse Falguni Dave. The Chicago Federation of Labor is made up of more than 300 local unions who in turn represent more than 500,000 union members across Chicago and Cook County. As Secretary Treasurer at the CFL, I serve as the #2 elected officer alongside CFL President Bob Reiter. Cook County Health and Hospital's discipline of Nurse Falguni Dave is not right, downright insulting, and tone deaf to the challenges of healthcare workers. The discipline is an insult to the nurses and healthcare professionals, frontline workers who toil tirelessly every day for the health and well-being of their patients and the residents of Cook County. The discipline is tone deaf to the sacrifices that healthcare workers made during the pandemic. They were among the first to contract COVID and the first to die from the disease. Furthermore, the action against Nurse Dave insults workers across the city of Chicago, Cook County, and the state of Illinois. The people of Illinois made history last week when they passed the Workers' Rights Amendment. Their actions added workers' rights to the Illinois Bill of Rights. The same Bill of Rights that includes the right to free speech, religion, and peaceful assembly now includes the Workers' Rights Amendment, the right to form a union. Management's discipline of Dave for her support of what is a right guaranteed in the Illinois Constitution is in itself a violation of her rights. The discipline is an insult to Cook County Health's employees and working families across Illinois. It sends a message telling them that their rights do not matter. Nurse Dave did not engage in divisive, political, partisan speech on company time. The constitutional amendment was bipartisan. During a time of political polarization, Illinoisans overwhelmingly supported workers' rights. Nurse Dave did not create the social media post. The photo itself was taken when she was on her break from work. She was standing on a public sidewalk in a public space, not in the workplace, when the photo was taken. The amendment for workers in the Illinois Bill of Rights should be a reason to celebrate the fact that Illinois believes in the dignity, value, and respect for all workers. I ask that management join in the celebration of Illinois workers and drop the discipline of Nurse Dave. By doing so, Cook County Health will send a message to their employees that they are respected and valued and that Cook County Health supports workers' rights. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you so much for that report. Madam Secretary, do we have any other testimony?
We do not.
Okay. Okay, well now at this point we will move on to hear our report from our Chief Human Resources Officer, Ms. Valerie Amos. We'll review the metrics.
Good morning or good afternoon, Chair Prendergast and the rest of the team members. I'm Valerie Amos, Chief Human Resources Officer, and I will be sharing some updates with you today. On this first slide, I wanted to just provide an impact summary, FY22 through August 31st of this calendar year. At this moment, we have 751 positions that have been filled from December 1st through October 31st, 2022. This number includes all of the individuals who have been hired and started, as well as those with anticipated future start dates that we have extended offers to. And so we're excited about, progressing the hiring numbers as you see here. We have also been tracking the number of declinations, and we're almost at 100 declinations. And so those individuals have disclosed that, pay, scheduling, personal reasons. Oftentimes we have seen candidates who have accepted offers with us, and then their company provides a counter and they end up staying. So I think that it's duly noted. 628 people have started, including internal transfers, promotions, as well as externals. 123 of those have not yet started. They have future start dates. And the top 3 areas where we are seeing this growth is in nursing. Of course, they lead the pack. Our focus has been on recruiting a number of critical vacancies. Nursing is at the top of our list. So 26% of the number you see above represents nursing, 13% represents healthcare professionals, and 12% represents administrative and clerical support.
I have a quick question. This is Director Prendergast. In terms of the declinations, what percentage of those are nursing?
I will need to get back with you on that number. I don't have it in front of me today, but I can certainly pull that information because we are definitely tracking it by job classifications, and I can send that at a later time through board secretary, if that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Director Harrington, I believe.
And looking at the percentages, that total is 51% and 39% is 39% is nursing and healthcare professional. What other positions are we talking about? And we've got administrative, clerical, healthcare professional, nursing. So that what other types of positions are we talking about?
Absolutely. So we have our some of our frontline positions, such as building service workers. We have some other positions, transporters. We have a number of other critical vacancies throughout the organization that we are attempting to fill. Leadership positions are also not listed here, but we have filled quite a number of leadership positions as well, just to name a few.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I'd like to, this is Director Curry.
Sure.
2 things though, if for future reports, it would be helpful though, because those 3 categories account for just over 50%, which still remains almost 50% that are not categorized here. And I think going down possibly 1 or 2 or 3 more, so maybe we have 3/4 of those categorized, because it does sound like there's some other critical positions in some categories that might be helpful for us to be aware of. And I'll leave it to you to decide which those are. And my second question is, and it's probably just me, as I look to the right under the hiring velocity, and I added the number of filled positions each month, that adds up to just, let's see, I had it in 122, about 350 positions. How does that square with the 751 or the 628 higher? There seems to be a gap, or am I just not reading that correctly?
No, you're stealing my thunder, Director Kerr. So first, no, that's okay. We're gonna talk before the board meeting so you can help me present next time. No, but let me go back to your original request. We can certainly add some additional categories in terms of the field position so that it could be more representative of about 75–80% of the individual positions that are being filled. Just moving on to hiring velocity. So this particular area represents external hiring only. The left slide represents internal transfers, promotions. We have a lot of career mobility, and we have to definitely support our internal, upward mobility and so forth. So external velocity is what you see to your right. So we are calling that out. And as you can see, that has started to increase quarter after quarter. Does that answer your question? Okay, great.
Yes, it does.
All right, great. Next slide, please. So in terms of separations and turnover, as you can see by the trend line, we are now seeing that number decrease. So we're excited about that. I know that, on many board reports and many other meetings, hiring is the #1 need for all organizations, and Cook County Health is no different. And so we still have a turnover percentage of about 11%. That still is pretty good in terms of comparing to benchmark standards. We have seen a 37% decrease in separations as compared to Q2 of last year, and then 32% decrease in separations in Q4 between FY21 and this year. So we are seeing some differences. We are seeing less people separate. As I mentioned in the previous board report, we do have a number of employees who are tenured here with the organization. And most notably, though, this is the third month that we're seeing in this particular trend line that new hires have outpaced our separations. I see hands. I don't know which one is first.
This is Director Harrington.
Harrington.
You
thank
say
you.
the 11% year-to-date turnover is close to benchmark?
It's better than benchmark in terms of the standards that we've seen out in the market.
Yeah, I don't know what benchmark is. I'm trying to gauge the number.
Oh,
what
got
is
it.
benchmark?
Got it. We've seen much higher double digits in healthcare industries. In terms of what I've seen in the SHRM reports, has been much higher, given the fact that we've had that great resignation and so forth. I didn't check for this particular time frame. I can certainly provide that information, but it's been much higher than 10%. Some areas had represented, 15 and 17%, but I can get you some additional stats for that as well.
And you may want to show if we're consistently at or lower than the benchmark. It'd be nice
Okay.
to see what the benchmark is currently.
Thank you.
And how
Will do.
compared.
Okay. Other hands?
Yeah.
Director Kevin? Mm-hmm.
I'm just a little puzzled trying to work through, I've jumped ahead a slide, and it shows that only 60% of the hires were external. And it seems to me, and I could be not thinking about this right, but it seems to me that measuring against separations, it's only the 373 that count, unless we're including, because when those people make an internal movement, they leave a vacancy behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And so unless we're counting those in the separations too, and I don't think we are, it's not quite an apples to apples comparison.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. Almost 60% are external, so it's 59.3%. And you'll see in the next slide. Why don't we move to the next slide? Oh, and Director Curry, I apologize. You have a question. So before I move to the next slide. Oh, you're on mute. Director.
My hand should have been down. I don't have a question.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So next slide, please. Thank you. All right. So Director Ketting, you're absolutely right. If you can see this particular slide, down at the bottom, the trend line for the totals, 255 are internal, 373 external. That does represent a 59.3%. In terms of how we are capturing this data, You're absolutely right. You know, we do have vacancies from department to department. We do count those vacancies. I mean, it still is a hit to the organization internally, even though it does not attempt to change the overall number. So I've attempted to be clear here that, yes, we are counting all internals and external hires because that does represent recruitment in terms of career mobility. But you're absolutely right. The externals that are listed here, 373, as we have depicted, does indeed, it's called out there. And so happy to, share slides differently for you, but I want to share the entire summary of what recruitment entails. And that does entail internal transfers as well as promotions. And so this slide really depicts the average number of hires. And as you can see, it's about 57 in terms of the individuals who have already started. So that just represents the 628 positions, not the 751, because some of those have not started yet. And as you can see, the monthly hires from last year and the year prior, we have exceeded that number. Next slide, please. In terms of separations, on the next slide. Thank you. I mentioned before there's a 37% decrease in separations based on Q2 to Q3, and then Q4, although we're not yet completed yet, but we still are seeing a nice trend downward. In terms of resignations, that continues to lead and outpaces the prior year totals with 411. Again, this is FY22 year to date in terms of October 31st, 2022. And Director Carrington, you have your hand up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm assuming we do exit interviews, and do we establish the reason people are leaving? I wonder, do you have a top 3 or 5 reasons that people resign?
Yes, so we do have an exit interview process, and probably at 2 or 3 board meetings ago, I talked with you about the value of having our contracted resources. As you know, we have 3 vendors who are supporting us with a number of HR optimization items, as well as providing recruiting support. One of those companies that recently started, Deloitte, they started in September. They will be working with us on overhauling our exit survey. It needs overhauling. We do have some initial data, and most of the data kind of presented to us was retirement, resignations for more competitive pay, and the work relationship. That was the top 3 based on what our data showed. We will be looking at, though, overhauling that particular process.
Hi, this is Otis. Please leave your name and number, and I will surely return.
Okay. All right. Director Curry.
Yeah, one other, and I'm going back a couple steps. We don't need to move the slides back. So as I'm looking at the big picture here, my remark earlier relative to the other 47% of specific positions that are open right now, and with respect to the 3 groups we have helping you with recruitment and hiring, what are the impediments here? Because why every position is critical, I'm going to make that clear. Every position type and title is important. There seem to be some, and I hope not a mischaracterization, but low-hanging fruit for some of these positions that I hear that which hit me as being many candidates available in the communities that we serve when you look at opportunities there. So I'm trying to reconcile what the barriers are in getting those positions filled when they see lines and lines of people seeking employment and opportunities for some of those positions.
Yeah. So I think that that's a really good question. We are sharing a number of positions. We all kind of fish out of the same pond, to be very honest with you. As you know, Cook County Health is positioned across the street from VA, down the street from UI Health. and down the street from Rush. And so there are many options. At our most recent job fair, on November the 10th, we realized that another competitor was hosting a job fair the same day, same time. And so we are definitely focused in the community. We are attempting to partner with, as I mentioned on an earlier meeting, with employer workforce entities like Cook Workforce, where we have gone into different colleges, Prairie State, Triton, and many other areas. We're partnering with professional organizations as well for some of our clinical positions. But most importantly, Director Curry, we have really increased the number of proactive sourcing opportunities for candidates so that they can see Cook County Health as an attractor. I don't necessarily have a strong answer for why folks are necessarily not coming to us, other than, they just have many other options at this point. There are some streamlined approaches that we have been attempting to take as it relates to recruiting processes. And that's why the value of having the external contractors to work with us to help us streamline some of the things that we do, which is very unique to this governmental entity, I think is also critical. Some may call it a barrier. I just call it the uniqueness of our organization. It does take many steps and layers, and we have been really working to refine some of that. I think our recruiting bonus has really been impactful in attracting candidates, but to host job fairs on the same day with others, even though we had ours planned, sometimes that happens, and we do see some of that. I don't know if that necessarily answers your questions, but we are definitely taking steps to remove any barriers so that we can attract talent.
No, it certainly provides more context. I appreciate it. And I just want to ensure that no stone is left unturned here as we move forward to get these positions filled. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that. And as you can tell, anytime we host an event, we cast a wide net. We try to share it with all of our colleagues in the collective bargaining agreement or agents. So we shared those things with the unions. We share that with you guys in terms of the board. We cast a wide net amongst so many other organizations, these employer partnerships that we mentioned before, I mentioned before, as well as schools, and just we're trying a little bit of everything. And then most recently, improving our careers website to make it more attractive. And now we are looking at our technology solution as it relates to our applicant tracking system to focus on what improvements can we make there. And so partnering with our chief information officer and one of our contracted partners, as well as the Bureau of Technology, is going to prove also very beneficial for us. We want to knock down every barrier that we could possibly have. Thank you. Director Harrington?
Yeah, I wanted to provide additional context and an observation. You already mentioned it, but we are on the Medical Center campus, Illinois Medical District, and the Illinois Medical District has 4 hospitals, and Stroger is one of those hospitals. There's also the VA hospital, the University of Illinois, 2 academic medical centers, University of Illinois and Rush, and all of them have the same hiring needs. So it's a very competitive environment in terms of that location, and they all have different salaries and different opportunities. So we're, by nature of our location, we're in a very competitive location for employees. The other thing to keep in mind, I'm assuming this is hiring for the entire system. So the numbers we're looking at, the majority of them might be for the hospital. It might be for Stroger, but we have other entities that do hiring as well. So I'm sure they're included in these numbers. So we need to keep a broader perspective when we look at these numbers. They're not specific to Stroger Hospital. They're specific to the system. And so
absolutely,
that's something to be mindful of.
Absolutely. And I think, most recently in August, one of those 6 job fairs that we had in August focused on CERMAC and we are unique in that regard as well. I don't know how many other facilities will have a Department of Corrections as part of their health system, but we do. I mean, and we service everyone. And so the uniqueness of having that correctional facility is also in and of itself something different for us, and how we attract the candidates to a location that's locked is also something to think about. And so I agree with you, and I appreciate you calling that out. These numbers do not just represent Stroger, they represent Provident, as well as all of our clinics, our ACHN clinics, public health, just everywhere. So thank you for that. Any additional questions before I move on to the next slide? Okay. Next slide, please. This slide just depicts the turnover. We talked a little bit about the comparison between this particular fiscal year and last year. And so this slide is broken out by quarters. And we are, trending about the same as it relates to overall activity with turnover. And so we have to, really watch that. I know December is a really strong month for us that represents the new year. New fiscal year, we tend to see, though, an uptick in our December timeframe in terms of retirements. Nothing else to really call out on this slide. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to share a little bit about some activity that I think is imperative for this group to know. As you know, we've been targeting job fairs, planning activities with multiple operational departments. And so to ensure that there's compliance associated with these job fairs, we do meet with not only our executive sponsors, which are the departmental folks, as well as our employment plan officer, Kim Kraft, and her team. Our goal is to really advance hiring. And so we have made a commitment to host job fairs on a monthly basis. And so for the October timeframe, I mentioned this at our last board meeting, and I wanted to depict it on a slide for you, as well as the activity for November. The police officer registry positions, these were new positions that were recently brought into CCH, and we were able to extend offers same day, where people did accept the offers, and we only have 2 vacancies left. For nursing, we hosted 2 nursing job fairs in 1 week. The departments are listed here: maternal child health, peds ICU, critical care, emergency room, and trauma. So we had a number of different departments that were hosted on November 7th. 31 attendees and 12 offers were extended on that particular day. Then we moved to Thursday, November the 10th, where we hosted a med-surg, cath lab, peri-op, ambulatory procedures unit, and float pool event. This was the day that we had a competitor who also hosted their event the same day during the same time. We did have 25 attendees and 11 offers on that particular day. We are working with nursing leadership to also review our job descriptions to determine if there are any other ways that we can attract individuals who want to be here at CCH. So in terms of impediments or barriers, we are conducting a review there as well to ensure that we have all of the information that's needed to attract talent. Most importantly, we are moving towards an upcoming one, the laboratory, as well as the physician assistant group that is going to be held Monday. And we're looking forward to that particular event as well. So 3 events for the month of November so far. Director Curry, questions? You're on mute, I believe. Director Curry, you are on mute. Is there a question?
Oh, they are, okay. I noticed that 3 of the health statuses are in the green. What's the metric that determines whether it's green, yellow, or red?
So what we're trying to do is determine if we get a third or even a fourth, preferably a third of the hires. We're considering that successful at this point. Our goal, honestly, Director Kerr, is to capture 70 to 80% of anyone who shows up. A number of the attendees who did run through the interviewing process, we did have some folks who weren't quite as qualified, and so they did not make the cut, but we asked them to come back to a second event, which a number of them did, which was great. And then there were some others who did not want to come to us, of course, and we used that as an opportunity to make some modifications to our process, and so that's why we're working with nursing leadership. But in terms of the status, as long as we are able to capture, a number of hires, ideally 70 to 80% would be best, but we're starting low as our metric because we need to test this out. There's a lot of effort that's placed on job fairs. I believe that individuals may not understand the significance of how we have to host these fairs here. So the health status is green because 1, we successfully completed these job fairs. 2, we had, a decent amount of attendees. We definitely want more. And then 3, we had all of these folks who have offers. They were able to receive these offers on site. That is huge for us, for this organization. Other questions? Next slide, please. It's imperative to share a little bit about our technology roadmap. We talked about some potential barriers. We want to remove everything. And so we know that we need to modernize some of the things that we do internally. And this is why we have our contracted resources to help us identify some of those things and help us advance those initiatives. In addition to that, let's kind of mirror the technology solutions that will advance and help our team. So enable our team to actually track, trend, and hire faster. So some of those things are listed here. So what are we looking to accomplish? Our expected outcomes. We want to increase that hiring velocity, as I've mentioned before. We want to reduce all of the paper. We have a number of manual processes here, as probably you may or may not be aware, but we do. And so we'd like to digitize a number of our processes. And then we'd like to improve our customer service satisfaction. We want every candidate to feel as though, 1, they matter, and 2, there is definitely an opportunity for them to hear or understand where they are in the application process. We would like to also do the same things for our employees. Our employees are imperative. We need to maintain and retain the human capital here. So if there's a leave of absence, if there's a tuition reimbursement, we want to track and trend as many opportunities as we can as it relates to technology. So our goals are listed to the right. We want to modernize. We want to integrate our HR systems as much as possible. Ideally, kind of pre-hire to retire. We have many systems today. At a board meeting probably last fall, I talked about all of the different inputs and how we have to capture data that is really different. And so we'd like to have one integrated system so that we have one source of data, the ability to build that data intelligence. Talent analytics is going to be critical for us so that we can continue to tell you the story and ensure that you understand how we are measuring and moving the needle. And then ideally, we'd like to go paperless as much as possible. As I mentioned, there are a lot of manual inputs. There are a lot of forms that we have in HR. So we would like to just kind of move the needle towards modernizing and being more contemporary so that we can accelerate the things that we do in HR. Not just recruiting. Recruiting is the top of the iceberg, but there's also employee-based processes that we need to improve upon. So here's our technology roadmap, and just a sneak preview. Slalom is leading this effort along with support from Deloitte. And so those are our 2 vendors that are supporting this effort. We'd like to, improve digital processes by creating more digital forms, building hiring resources. We're calling it Hiring Central as a term, so that there's visibility and transparency into what is happening within the recruitment space. You've seen some dashboards in the past that gives you a sneak preview of what the managers have the ability to review at this moment. And then we'd like to simplify that application process for our candidates, making it easier, we want them to have, a 5-minute opportunity instead of perhaps a 15 to 20-minute opportunity to apply. And then most importantly, as you can see, not only are we looking at optimization, we'd like to simplify some things as well as modernize. So I won't go through everything today, but I want you to know that technology is on our roadmap, and we are working very closely with Angela O'Banion and team, who is our Chief Information Officer, and her entire team. Questions about that? Okay. All right. Next slide, which should be our question slide. All right. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
As always, thank you so much for a very informative report. It's really exciting to hear about the future technology plans. I think it's always a good thing to, incorporate as much of that into our workflows, just to improve efficiency. I think it's really great that our hires are outpacing our separations. And so we hope that that trend continues. I don't see any more hands, so let's move on with our, again, thank you for that report. I'm sorry.
I apologize. I meant to also share, if I didn't, Chair Prendergast, that November 21st will mark the 15th job fair for us since I've been here. So we're pretty excited about that. And most importantly, 6 of the job fairs that we've already hosted were nursing job fairs. So 6 out of the 15 were targeted towards nursing.
Awesome. The good news continues. So thank you for sharing that.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, moving on next on the agenda, we have action items. The minutes of the Human Resources Committee meeting from August 18th, 2022. These were approved by the board at the August meeting, but are being presented for the committee's review and discussion if necessary. Are there any corrections that need to be made to the minutes? If not, can I get a motion to accept the minutes of the August 18, 2022 Human Resources Committee meeting?
So moved.
This is Garza. I'll second it.
The motion has been made and seconded. Madam Secretary, can you call the roll? A roll call vote is needed.
Roll call on the motion to accept the minutes. Aye or nay, Director Curry?
Aye.
Director Garza?
Aye.
And Chair Prendergast?
Aye.
You have 3 yeas and 0 nays.
Okay, the minutes are approved. The next group of items will be discussed in closed session. The first are 4 CBAs, and the second item is the proposed amendments to the CCH severance policy. Any action taken on these items will take place in open session following the closed meeting discussion. Can I get a motion to go into a closed meeting pursuant to the following exception to the Open Meetings Act, 5 ILCS 120/2 C 1, 2, 11, and 17. Madam Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Roll call on the motion to go into closed session. Aye or nay, Director Curry?
Aye.
Director Garza?
Aye.
And Chair Prendergast?
Aye.
That's 3 yeas and 0 nays.
Okay, the committee will now recess into a closed meeting. Please disconnect from the open meeting Teams invite and connect to the closed meeting Teams invite. Thank you.
Thank you.